importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'm your host here this morning. We're going to be joined a little bit later by Terry Varner. He is the creator of a Facebook page called Replace Roy. That would be specifically our Roy Blunt, who is as you're aware, the state senator for Missouri. And Mr. Blunt, as you're probably painfully aware, has done a number of things which put him in a category of the kind of guy that we need to get out of office. So we'll be speaking about with Terry Varner a little bit later in the broadcast at about 8:15 after our first segment. In reference to our first segment, I do want to utilize our few moments for a discussion related to what's currently happening right now in the Washington corridors in reference to the number of scandals that are out here. You have to remember that what we're talking about here are scandals that are extraordinarily significant to our nation. These are scandals which, for all intents and purposes, incorporate and cover every aspect of not only government, but also our ability to trust our government. We're talking first and foremost about Benghazi. The information that's coming out about Benghazi is far more damning and damaging to this presidency than he had originally indicated and or any of his sycophants. The information that's currently breaking right now indicates that the number of issues that were related to the talking points that were pushed out there for the 5 Sunday news broadcasts were all nonsense, that the White House had far more involvement with that. And I think we're going to find at the end of the day, assuming that Congress does its job, that Benghazi alone is enough to sink this presidency. The second issue is the IRS. And the IRS being used as a weapon and a tool by this administration is absolutely treasonous. Yes, you heard me right. It is treasonous. To use information from the IRS, who is supposed to be a impartial and a secure method of providing information to the government, is absolutely outrageous. The IRS demanded info from conservative groups who had classified or registered to be categorized as a 501c4. Now, for the record, a 501c4 is a tax-exempt organization that has as its goals lobbying and the passage of certain types of legislation. The one thing that they cannot do is they cannot support a specific candidate. If they're going to support a specific candidate, then under federal rules they have to apply for a different form of exemption, tax exemption. So in supplying this information to the IRS, which was demanded by them, these groups provided lists of their members, lists of their donors, organization secrets, their membership. In many cases, they were required to provide Facebook posts, the entire content of any and all public discussions they'd made, their interaction with other groups or organizations, intellectual property, trade secrets, reams and reams of data. The IRS then turned around and gave this information to ProPublica, a libtard progressive smear group that consequently used some of this information against Romney as he ran against Obama in the presidency of last year. What that tells you is that the IRS is being used as an assault weapon against the American people. Yes, you heard me right. It's an assault weapon. The IRS wields an unbelievable amount of power. Their ability to intimidate, to punish, to prosecute, and to imprison individuals and corporations is virtually unlimited. To utilize the IRS in that form and in that manner by this administration, and by the way, this is not the only administration that's done this. They're all guilty of it. You will never hear me support a Republican who has also betrayed his or her country. I am apolitical. I do not, in fact, I'm so unbiased that I hate all politicians, simply because of the fact that in order to get into a position where they have the public ear and the public eye, they have sold and corrupted themselves into damnation long before you've ever even heard their name. What that tells us is that whether Republican or Democratic in their administrations, all presidents have used the IRS in some way, shape, or form to intimidate their enemies. This administration, however, has taken this to a new level. And I submit to you that what they have accomplished is to silence their enemies and approach the area of impeachment for this president. This IRS information, as it's pouring out, they're trying to tell you that this was only the Cincinnati office. But with a number of releases of information that have come out in the last couple of days, it was not only the Cincinnati office, number one. Number two, the Cincinnati office was the main processing center for all of these tax-exempt types of organizations. So to try to declare like it's a mini post office out in the middle of nowhere that operated in and of itself and independently is a lie. And it's more misdirection and misinformation and disinformation from this government. Secondarily, it didn't just occur in Cincinnati. Many of the letters that came to these agents or organizations that were requesting this 501c4 status came from Washington, D.C. and California. So, to try to classify this as compartmentalized into one lone rogue office in Cincinnati is a lie. To try to categorize the Cincinnati office as some rare backwoods location that really had no power and authority is also a lie. And on top of that, we have the Associated Press. Now, this administration has relied almost exclusively on the press to cover his tail, to cover his dirt. Like your cat who goes outside and uses the leaves and then piles them on top of the dirt to cover it up. This administration has utilized the press in ways which, quite frankly, the American people have never seen before. The press has given this guy a free ride on virtually every aspect of his administration. And only when he has betrayed the First Amendment and gone after them have they stood up on their hind legs. It remains to be seen whether or not the Associated Press scandal will blossom into something much larger. In and of itself, Eric Holder and his administration should go down over this. Whether or not this can be tied back to the traitor-in-chief is a whole different story. We have Obamacare. We have the National Defense Authorization Act. We have the DHS militarization. We have surveillance of every American. We have a new article I just posted this morning about how Posse Comitatus is dead in the United States. That U.S. military has taken a power grab that has gone into effect immediately. That is being outed by law and civil liberties professors and constitutional law professors and attorneys all over the nation. Folks, the stage is set. The lights are dimmed. The crowd is restless. Only time will tell us where we fall down on these issues. But I submit to you that if we do not impeach this president and cease the activity, the traitorism, the betrayal, the statism, America will fall. You're listening to America's Voice. We're going to take a brief break. When we return, we'll speak with Terry Varner from the Replace Roy organization. We'll be back in just a moment.
One in 5 Americans has come into contact with these bloodthirsty creatures or knows someone who has. Reports of infestations have reached pandemic proportions. Bedbugs. They feed on human blood and can leave skin erupting in red, itchy welts. They're also very difficult to control. Bedbugs do not just live in bedrooms, but wherever people go. Schools, movie theaters, offices. Not even hospitals are immune to their invasions. The only way to prevent the spread of bedbugs is for each and every one of us to be vigilant and proactive, to learn the simple daily steps that minimize the chances of bringing bedbugs into our lives. And if they do get in, don't go it alone. Bedbugs are most effectively controlled using the help of a qualified and licensed pest professional. Learn more about the bedbug pandemic and how to protect your home and family at pestworld.org.
All right, folks, we're back. Thank you for riding with us through that capitalist moment. For those of you who are not in remembrance of capitalism, it is the foundational doctrine of this country. It's what's made us great. It's what allowed us single-handedly to drag the rest of the third world kicking and screaming into the 21st century, almost exclusively on the backs of America and American ingenuity and American exceptionalism. For those of you that have been taught something else, you've been lied to. All right, we're going to introduce Terry Varner. Terry is the creator of a Facebook page and an organization that is determined to replace Roy Blunt as the Missouri State Senator. I'm sure that's in large part to his traitorous betrayal of the citizens of the state of Missouri. Good morning, Terry. How are you?
Good morning. You couldn't be more right on that.
Yeah, he has been probably one of the worst senators that the state of Missouri has had, with the exception of Claire McCaskill. What makes Roy Blunt unusually circumspect is the fact that as a Republican, he's supposed to stand for small government, limited government, fiscal responsibility, and the guy is anything but. He's a Democrat in Republican clothing.
Yes, he is. He is a true blue RINO. There's no misunderstanding that at all. This is one issue that we kind of agree with the liberals on, that Roy Blunt needs to be out of office. We just feel for different reasons.
Well, he's about as corrupt as a dead corpse.
Well, he was named one of the most corrupt legislators in the country, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to think who did that statement, but he has been named for his shenanigans. Of course, when you've got your family working out of K Street in Washington, D.C., lobbying every John, Dick, and Harry, and becoming wealthy because of it through the taxpayer's dollar.
Sure.
That is just a dead giveaway who he is.
Right. So now, this program that you're kicking off here, my listeners know that Roy Blunt is probably, is a favorite punching bag because the guy is so easy to smack around. I mean, he is a guy who has sponsored more legislation that is more harmful to more people in Missouri than anyone else. This Missouri Monsanto, or the federal Monsanto Protection Act, and the subsequent Missouri Monsanto Protection Act, which he sponsored through Jason Smith, who's trying to replace Joanne Emerson, and funded his campaign, is an absolute betrayal of everything that Missouri and the American people stand against.
Well, it is.
Providing a an individual corporation with unlimited access to and authority to conduct whatever type of experiments they want on the United States of America without the ability of either the courts through the judicial process or the legislative through legislative prohibition against those dangerous results is inexcusable. I mean, this is the first time, I think, in legislative history that a company has been given carte blanche to do as they please, and both the judiciary and the legislative are prohibited from acting against them, even with empirical proof that what they've created and done is dangerous to the citizenry.
Absolutely. Monsanto gave $74,000 to Roy Blunt.
So Roy sold us out for 74,000 pieces of copper.
Yes.
And effectively, for all intents and purposes, the scumbag has basically taken our money, enriched himself, lined his own coffers, given himself the rule or the position of a duke, and now at this point in time, we're all saddled with the results of that treason.
Well, he is a duke after all. He did have dinner the other night with Prince Harry. Remember, he rubs elbows with royalty. He believes he is royalty. But out of that $74,000, he gave $5,000 of it to Jason Smith to duplicate what Monsanto has done in the federal legislature. In fact, Monsanto just gave him the money so he would submit their bill. I don't believe that Blunt wrote the bill. I believe it came directly from the lawyers.
Oh, he didn't. Listen, Roy Blunt couldn't write legislation, prohibiting dogs from defecating in the sidewalk. The guy is an absolute. Have you ever heard him speak? I mean, he's got trouble stringing 5 sentences together in a coherent paragraph. It's shameful. He couldn't write that legislation if you gave him a pen and a typewriter and 10,000 years and 5,000 monkeys to accomplish it.
Well, you're right on that aspect. The other day, I understand that the GOP fundraiser that Rand Paul came in and spoke, Blunt got up and spoke during luncheon, and while he spoke, nobody was paying attention. They kept talking, and it just ticked him off completely. But what he's got to understand is that nobody cares about what he says. It's the same old rhetoric over and over and over again.
Well, we all know that he's a liar and a thief and a cheat and corrupt as the day is long. And so my question to you is, how do you propose removing this cancer from our state and quite frankly, our federal government? I mean, short of repeal of the 17th Amendment, which would be my first choice, first of all, state senators should never be, or federal senators representing states, should never have been tossed to the electorate. That should have been an appointment by the state legislature, which was the original intent of the Constitution, because it gives the legislature an opportunity to demand accountability from that senator and call that person back and say, excuse me, you're not properly representing the state, you're fired.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, but until we are able to change the 17th Amendment and
repeal it,
we are going to have to go through the old-fashioned method, and this is why we established replace Roy 4 years from the election, because we know that he is just cash rich with the silver and copper that corporations like Monsanto has given him. He under any other circumstances, it would be difficult to replace someone like that or fight against someone like that. But we're 4 years away. We've got a lot of time to plan and recruit people across this state, and we have been successful. We have over 100 people who have just come out of the woodwork wanting to get involved with this. We plan on vetting true conservative constitutional candidates to run against Roy Blunt in the primary. We are looking at names now.
I might think about running for Roy Blunt's seat.
Well, Mike, I wouldn't have any problem with you doing that. You're the type of guy that we look for and are wanting. It's not people like Jason Smith by any means, but
Well, let me tell you something. If I ever found my way into the Senate, they'd kill me before the end of my term. They'd find some way to cut my brake lines, or I'd step in the way of a stray shotgun shell that was shooting at pigeons 10,000 miles away or something. Because these guys wouldn't. I tell you right now, I would go in there and I would go to war.
Well, you and Rand Paul could do a world of good for us.
So how do you want to get rid of Roy? I mean, here's the problem.
The only way we're going to get rid of Roy is through the ballot box.
Okay, but here, I mean, to be perfectly blunt, and I don't want to rain on your parade here, but we don't have until 2018 to get rid of this piece of garbage. Number one, I don't think we have until 2016 when our current traitor-in-chief and the tyrant-in-chief retires or gets kicked out through term limits.
Well, I don't see any other way of getting him out, Mike.
Well, you can do it through a ballot initiative.
You're more knowledgeable in that than I am, because I'm not aware of that.
To my knowledge, the only way to remove a sitting senator or a sitting representative in the House, in the federal House now, would be through a ballot initiative. And I'm not even sure of the legality of that. I'd have to do a whole lot more exploration on that issue to determine what is the right way to do that. What we could do is pass a constitutional amendment in the state of Missouri that says if an elected representative who represents the state on the federal representation level is shown to be, derelict in their duty or not properly representing their electorate, then the problem, of course, is then you've got to prove. The burden of proof is on the electorate to prove that representative has done, because the simple truth is, under a Republican democracy, which is what this is, it is not a democracy, this is a Republican democracy. And anyone who forgets to use the word Republican in front of it, which has nothing to do with parties, has absolutely abdicated or is either abdicated their responsibility to be knowledgeable about our system of government, or is so ignorant that they simply parrot someone else's opinion. And so the only way, to my knowledge, to do this would be for you to have a state constitutional amendment that declares that a representative who is no longer properly representing the citizenry could be recalled. Now, the only other problem with that, to my knowledge, is it's up to us then to prove that he has not represented the conservative values or the values of the people whom he's supposed to represent.
And that's the question. How do we go about that? You know that he's going to get coverage from all the elitist Republicans in this state.
Well, I get that, but I mean, I can throw some suggestions at you, but this is your idea, and I'm kind of running with it.
Mike, I'm willing to listen to any suggestions. We don't have all the answers on this. We knew we didn't. This is why we reached out to the people who were wanting to get Blunt out of office for their input. Most of the people that we deal with are very active politically.
Right. Well, what organization are you actually with? Let's start with that.
Missouri Grassroots Coalition. Okay.
So with the Missouri Grassroots Coalition, and give us their website if you would.
MissouriGrassrootsCoalition.org.
.org. Okay. So the Missouri Grassroots Coalition, are they at this point looking to drive some sort of a legislative process to either get a constitutional amendment pressed through or to create some method?
That is something that we can very well look into doing, and getting our membership groups, the Tea Party, the conservative groups, 912 groups across the state, to help us push this through the legislature.
How many members does the Missouri Grassroots Coalition have? Are you aware? Or?
473, something like that.
Okay, and how about other similarly situated grassroots organizations around the state that you've communicated with that are appearing to show similar leanings?
Well, we're talking in the close to 20,000 membership through all the organizations throughout the state.
Okay, so why don't we do this? We're going to take a break because that's mandatory in a capitalist radio world. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, I'd like to discuss a little bit more about how the Grassroots Coalition groups, and I'm, I don't know how many there are, but let's assume that there are quite a few if we've got 20,000 people. and how we can get the word out to those people, how you anticipate accomplishing that goal, and what our listeners can do to participate and assist in this effort as well. We're going to take a quick break. We're speaking with Terry Varner. He is the creator of a new Facebook page and a new drive to replace Roy Blunt as the federal senator, and we'll kind of discuss this Missouri Grassroots Coalition effort, how we can better accomplish that end goal. We'll be back in just a moment.
This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Lillian Wu. The commander-in-chief cracking down as a scandal mushrooms at the IRS.
President Obama says acting IRS Commissioner Stephen Miller is resigning. The president saying he will not tolerate the targeting of groups based on their politics.
But especially in the IRS, given the power that it has and the reach that it has in all of our lives.
And the FBI is investigating possible civil rights violations.
Fox Radio's Rich Johnson. Many Republican lawmakers indicating they're not satisfied with the ouster and want to find out whether the White House encouraged or knew about the actions.
Treasury Department's Inspector General insists that none of the actions were taken based on political motivation.
Fox's Wendell Goller. While Miller is on his way out, he won't get out of more questioning. He's due, for instance, at a hearing of the House Ways and Means Committee tomorrow. This is a Fox News Alert.
Visit our outstanding sponsors, West Plains Pawn, located on Route 160, about a mile past Walmart on the right-hand side. West Plains Pawn can be found on the web at westplainspawn.com. You can also reach them via telephone at 417-256-3000. The battery station at 303 Washington Avenue, right off the square in West Plains. They can be reached via telephone at 417-257-7799. They can also be found on the web at batterystation.com. My friends at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance. Brian can be reached at 870-492-4030, and he's located at 3225 Route 62, 1/2 mile east of Walmart in Mountain Home. Make sure that you visit our friends over at Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner Boulevard in West Plains. They have an outstanding lunch special buffet. You can have salad as well as pizza and other pasta, so you can have something tasty and something healthy. Bill Stone over at Stone Construction at 2930116. Bill Stone does remodeling, custom and new construction, light commercial, farm work, pretty much the gamut. If you're interested in doing some kind of a new project, make sure that you give Bill Stone at Stone Construction an opportunity to bid on that job. And my dear friend, Mary, over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, number 2 Evans Arcade, right off the square in West Plains. She can be reached via telephone at 255-2253. She's got the best damn bakery in 100 miles. And thanks so much to our phone line sponsor, Jason over at Wits End Classic Barbershop. You can call us on the Wits End Classic Barbershop hotline. He is on the square in West Plains. Excellent opportunity for you to get your hair cut. Get over there and visit.
Hi, it's Hugh Hewitt on the next Hugh Hewitt Show. The next governor of Virginia, Ken Cuccinelli. The current senator from South Dakota, John Thune. I'll also be joined by Bill Kristol, and we'll talk with all of them about immigration reform and what is ahead in the United States Senate, and Marco Rubio. Don't miss any minute of the next Hugh Hewitt Show.
Sundays from 6 till 7, following Money Talk with Bob Brinker, it's the Weekend Journal with Hugh Hewitt on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
Weather is a service of News Talk 107.1 The Point. Contact Josh or Cody at 255-2548 for more information on making weather sponsorships part of your marketing plans.
From the Point Weather Center for this morning with mostly cloudy sky, mostly cloudy through the day with a couple of thunderstorms, high 76. Mostly cloudy tonight and tomorrow with a chance for a thunderstorm, low tonight 60, high tomorrow 78. Partly sunny skies Saturday, the high 82. I'm staff meteorologist Jim Rinaldi, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
When our founding fathers secured the constitutional right of the people to keep and bear arms, they also added that right shall not be infringed.
We're commandeering the radio station in the name of...
This is Cooper of Cooper & Company. Tune in weekday mornings from 6 to 8 for your chance to win Glenn Beck's book, Control, exposing the truth about guns. Like I said, if you want a copy, just listen in to Cooper & Company weekday mornings. You can catch Glenn Beck on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point from 2 to 5 every weekday.
All right. We are speaking with Terry Varner this morning. He is the part of the Missouri Grassroots Coalition, and they've recently, just the other day, created a brand new Facebook page to replace Roy. So let me give you that information for starters, listeners. The name of the website or the Facebook page is facebook.com/replace Roy. First thing you need to do, they only created this page a few days ago, so there's about 42 likes on it. The first thing you need to do is get over there to this website on Facebook or this page, which is a public page, all right? So that means all you've got to do is get yourself over to that page at facebook.com/replace Roy. The next thing you need to do is you need to hit the like button so that this thing has some legs, because I can tell you with 42 likes on there that this is not the kind, that's not the kind of reception that people are going to want to see in an effort to replace a state senator. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that we bounce those number of likes up. The second issue is when these guys are putting out stories and publishing stories on this this page, that you're sharing them with listeners and people on your own Facebook page, much like you do with mine, okay? So that the word is out there, other people will begin to come, and this becomes another grassroots initiative. The third issue is we need to figure out, and I'll be more than happy to try to help you with this, Terry, but we need to figure out how to get the word out to these 20,000 estimated number of grassroots volunteers that are out there in the state, to make sure that we get these people actively fighting to whatever it takes, pass legislation, pass a nullification act, pass some kind of prohibition, even if it takes a constitutional amendment, to give the citizenry the right to utilize the ballot box in advance of this guy's replacement date. So
right, I agree.
We have a caller who's called in, who's had a lot of experience with Blunt's office, and I'd like to hear from him. So if you don't mind, I'm going to bring him on the line with us now. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, I've been taking advantage of Roy Blunt's program. He does these things he calls listening posts, where he sends his field reps out to various locations in the state.
Yeah, that means the ones where he never actually shows up to.
No,
yeah, those.
No, he has one of his very nice, well-coiffed, articulate young gentlemen who know how to nod their heads and go and all that. Where I've been, I think the first one I went to, maybe a grand total of 5 people showed up. The last one I went to, it was me and one other person.
Hello.
But what I did
no wonder the guy acts with impunity. America, you're falling asleep at the switch. Your job is to hold these people's feet to the fire, and when they cross you, put them in the fire.
Well, I handed the field rep a letter that I had written, and I insisted that he deliver it personally to Blunt and that Blunt read it. And I think he actually did do that, and it was probably because of the wild look in my eyes and the twitching, in my hands. But anyway, a week later, I did get a reply. Now, I don't think that maybe Blunt wrote it himself, but definitely was not a form letter.
I'll bet you money Blunt's never heard your name.
Well, anyway, but at least it's at the point where when I call this field rep, they put me right through to him. What I'm reading into this is that if we could get more people to go to these listening posts and put pressure on Blunt, Blunt's still a politician, and he still has those politicians' antenna out. And all I'm suggesting, I think rather modestly, as long as we're stuck with the guy, I think it behooves us to do everything we can to put pressure on him, to at least get him. Maybe we'll succeed in some cases to get him to go in our direction.
Yeah.
I let him have it over this internet tax thing. He says he's for low tax and all that stuff, and then he lays this on us. It's a tax increase is what it amounts to.
Sure.
And does he think that we're not already taxed enough? I mean, gee whiz.
Well, here's the simple truth. When 3 to 5 people show up at one of his town halls or whatever he calls them, you got to recognize that he sits there and laughs all the way to Washington because he knows that he operates with impunity and immunity, right? And so, it's no surprise that these people act this way. Because with all due respect, America has an attention span of about 36 seconds, and it's shameful and abhorrent. Our job is to keep this republic alive. And most of America has completely abdicated their responsibility. They claim, well, I voted, That's like showing up on time for work, okay? But it doesn't mean that you've actually done anything while you're there for the 8 hours. And if you simply showed up for work and then went to go to sleep once you had arrived and punched in, you would find yourself in very short order fired. And the simple truth of the matter is America has fallen asleep at the switch. They have abandoned their obligation and their responsibility to take these people and grab them by the horns and say, this is not what I expect from you.
Yeah, Mike, for your callers' information and for the listeners, Blunt is having a listening post, is what he calls it, on Wednesday, May 22nd, from 1:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. He's given us an hour at the Weber Road branch of the St. Louis County Library.
Yeah.
St. Louis County.
So this is May 22nd from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. at the Weber Road branch of the St. Louis County Library.
Right.
And he's given us an hour.
Yes,
graciously, right? And it won't even be him. It'll be some of his sycophantic staff.
Yes, and it'll be during the afternoon, so nobody can come.
Nobody can show up on time because everybody's actually at work trying to work like a Hebrew slave building the pyramids so that this guy can sit there and tax us a little bit more.
Oh, boy, if I were St. Louis, I'd really feel snubbed. I mean, he can give Rolla, Missouri 4 whole hours.
I tell you what. Is that where his last one was, in Rolla?
Yeah, that's the last one I went to. That was 2.5 months ago.
Well, here's the deal, gentlemen, and I got to tell you, our time is up in terms of trying to do this in a legislative fashion. We know, and that's the reason why I created the Restore Missouri Project November 6th, because I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that our federal government was lost to us. I knew without question that from the perspective of our having any say whatsoever in what is going on in the federal government, we were shut out. And so I created Restore Missouri, which is a project that drives and initiates legislative change here in this state to do two things. One, to build a firewall and a bulwark and a moat around the state to prohibit federal overreach within the state's limitation and our boundaries. And that's happening every day, by the way. It's happening with things like the Second Amendment Preservation Act, the anti-drone bill, the anti-Agenda 21 legislation. All of this, which is sitting in the hands right now of the other traitor who is our current governor, Nixon. And, I don't know how much of this he's going to approve and how much he's going to veto. We don't really know yet. The guy's up to his elbows in alligators and his own scandals. But the simple truth is this. If people do not react, if people are not willing to take this bull by the horns and ride this thing down until they gain control again, we are finished as a republic, we are finished as a nation, and we are descending at a rapid freefall pace into absolute totalitarianism. And scum like Roy Blunt are the ones who are predominantly behind it. I'll let you both finish, and then we're going to move on to another topic.
Okay, Mike. Well, I'm just going to do my best. Somebody's got to be a thorn in his side, and I guess I've appointed myself to do it. So.
I got you. Hey, listen, I appreciate and I applaud
I encourage you to join the Replace Roy group on Facebook. Join the page and become part of the group and discussion group and voice your opinions. You may know things that we don't know and we need to get accomplished.
Caller,
have an answer.
Caller, I'd like you to send me an email to mike@americasvoicenow.org. And just do me a favor, throw me a quick email and just reference this and give me a way in which I can contact you. I'd like to talk to you after the show. And
you've already talked to me before. I met you at the Ozark Freedom Festival.
Okay, all right.
John Farrell, brother.
Okay. But I meet so many folks. Do me a favor and just send me some communication information so I can get a hold of you. All right?
I'll get hold of you. Okay.
Thanks so much. Right. Bye-bye. Terry, here's the problem as I see it. I applaud your effort. I think what you have to do, though, is you're going to have to build a massive, and I mean massive, response to this. And I hate to tell you, but, we're at a point right now in our political lives where it's almost time for the talking time is almost done.
I agree.
It's not going to be much longer. When you look at the litany and the history of what's going on here, You've got, the National Defense Authorization Act, which allows them to imprison Americans. The DHS is arming itself to the teeth. They're surveilling every move you make. Posse Comitatus is dead. I don't know if you're aware of the U.S. military power grab that just went into effect, but the Pentagon has unilaterally granted itself power and authority over civil disturbances. I mean, look, this is coming down to a point in time in which we are going to either be subjugated under firearms by our own government, or we're going to stand up and have to take control of this thing politically. We have to do it through civil disobedience because, I'll be honest with you, we can't be the first. We can't be the ones to go out there and kick this off as some kind of a violent revolution. It's the wrong way to approach it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm all for self-defense, but we can't be the first ones to go out there and take the shot. I got to tell you.
No, we can't.
So, all right, listen. I'm going to put you on hold for this. Mike. I got to put you on hold for this break, and then we'll be right back.
If you're looking for great deals on iPads or Kindles, look no further than your neighborhood Radio Shack authorized sales center. They've got great deals on the latest iPads and Kindles. Maybe you need a new GPS or an MP3 player to get your music library ready for those barbecues. Whatever your electronic needs, stop by your local neighborhood Radio Shack authorized dealer in West Plains at 1408 Southern Hills Shopping Center or call 417-256-1819.
There's one man on this earth who really gets it.
It comes down to one sentence and 3 words: secure the border, and they won't do it. Well, look, we got a trigger here and a plan in 6 months, and I don't want to hear the bull crap, the bureaucratic bull crap. Folks, I lived through this in 1986. This is a redo. Or some of you might say a redux, but it's a redo. Secure the border.
Mark Levin is on the radio.
Weeknights from 5 till 8, Mark Levin on the Ozarks Best News Talk.
It's a call and make your voice heard on the biggest issues making headlines today, or on absolutely anything in your head. Every call I get goes on the air totally unscreened. It's unpredictable and uncensored, and you'll never know what to expect. Anything can and will happen on the next Alan Colmes Show.
And that's who you can catch every weeknight, 9 till midnight. The Alan Colmes Show on the Ozarks Best News Talk, 107.1 The Point, Monday through Friday. Out of 365 days a year, we celebrate holidays, anniversaries, and other important days. But there is one day you look forward to, your birthday. I wanna wish you a happy birthday. Ryan's Steakhouse of West Plains is proud to bring you the Birthday Club weekday mornings with Cooper & Company. Our daily winner receives one buffet and a drink to Ryan's. Just call your birthdays in weekday mornings with Cooper & Company at 255-0427. Brought to you by Ryan's and the Ozarks Best News Talk.
And happy birthday to you. Cha-cha-cha.
Okay, we are returned for our final segment. Terry, I gotta thank you for joining with us this morning, and raising awareness on this issue. I'm 100% in agreement with you that blunt's got to go.
Well, I agree with what you're saying. It's going to be a tough road to hoe.
I get it, but the only thing
at least we're doing something. We can't sit back on our haunches. And
sure.
We need to do this, need to do that. We need to do something, and we're doing it.
Sure.
If it is successful, great. If it fails, we did our part.
Right. Well, here's what I'd like you to do. You can contact me after the show. I'll be more than happy to talk to you about. And honestly, what needs to happen is people need to be fired up. And I'll be more than happy to talk to some of these coalition members. If you want to be the lead guy to get me in the door for some of those, I'll be more than happy to go in there and light the fire. I'm pretty well known for not just lighting the fire, but throwing a lit torch into the powder room. And so what I would strongly recommend and suggest is you give me a shout after the show, and we'll try to figure out a way to accomplish that.
We will absolutely do that, Mike.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your call. I'm going to ask you to. I'll talk to you afterwards. Thanks so much.
Bye now.
Right. Bye-bye. Okay, folks, that was our friend Terry Varner, who is trying to elicit and kick off this blunt removal process. Not quite sure how well that's going to work out, but I'm certainly behind it because I think blunt has been a traitor to the state of Missouri. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mike. Your fervor is so strong it's reaching all the way out to the coast to here in Philadelphia. I really appreciate the work you're doing there.
Well, that's great. Thank you for calling. And thank you for listening and sharing out there.
Senator Blunt, he's not only a traitor. He claims to be a Christian, and he was even the dean of a Christian Bible school. And I guess he was teaching all our kids how to be good little victims. But I'm not going along with it. But I think something more pressing that we can do, and maybe bring Tom's group to the attention of, is supporting Sheriff Mack in his efforts to inform the sheriffs and the other public officials of their responsibility to support the Constitution and in protection of our lives and our livelihoods. And so maybe you could pass that on to Tom, and maybe he's not aware of that. And that's something that's right in front of us. It's coming up in a couple of weeks, and we really need to get behind Sheriff Mack and support him in that.
Sure. Well, and I'm all for that. We've had Mack on the line here. We've talked about the CSPOA event that's occurring on May 31st and June 1st. I'm actually going to be there. And I would love for our representatives, whether they be law enforcement or whether they be any kind of a public official, to make it their business to be there. If there are listeners here who would like to attend, I strongly encourage you to do that, because the more of a grassroots showing there is, and remember something, folks. This isn't just a question of these folks learning the constitutional rights and wrongs and ins and outs of law enforcement and their duties and responsibilities. We want them to know that we're watching what they're doing. And the only way they're going to know that is if there's a very, very massive grassroots showing of citizenry who are not involved in the political public official positions, who are saying, not only are we aware of what your duties and responsibilities are, but we're making you aware of the fact that we know it, and we're here to make sure that we've seen you applaud. We've seen you stand up and take the oath. Now we're going to hold your feet to the fire. Follow what I mean?
Exactly. So we need people. We actually need people calling other people and calling their local sheriffs and their public officials and informing them about this. And that's what I'm doing, even from here in Pennsylvania. And I'm calling primarily the ones in the Midwest because they're closer.
Right.
And I am originally from Missouri, so I'm very concerned about this. The moves that are being made in Missouri, it's a perfect storm for us, we the people, if we wake up and activate now.
Right. Yeah, absolutely correct. And you're right, by the way, to hit the Midwest ones first, because every law enforcement office is under budget constraints. They're all being squeezed, and unless it's military hardware being delivered to them, of course. But for cash, actual money, they're all strapped. And you're absolutely correct. It is it's incumbent that these folks who are immediately around our area here in Missouri come to this convention. And you're obviously accurate in thinking that those in the closest states will be the ones who will come to attendance. But, at this point, I think it's also incumbent on us as individuals and citizens to say, hey, listen, we know you went. We watched you take an oath. We watched you stand up and salute the flag. We watched you get instructed about your constitutional duties and obligations and your rights as a constitutional sheriff or a law enforcement officer or public official. And we're expecting you to do your duty going forward. So,
right.
That's absolutely true.
Just like with Sheriff Underwood there in your area, and I've actually called and talked to Sheriff Underwood, and he's supposedly on the good guys list, on Sheriff Mack's list. But when you nail him down, I asked him, I said, if they come for the guns, what are you going to do? And he balked, but then he said he'd have to resign. I mean, what kind of that doesn't stand up for the people.
Yeah.
I mean, that
I don't expect him to resign. I expect him to stand in the middle of Route 63 with a rifle across his chest saying, "Today you stop right here." That's the job of a constitutional sheriff. You will call up your local citizenry. You will stand with them as an army behind you, and you will defend the county that you represent. And
thank
if you're
you,
not,
Mike.
thank you, Mark. And if you're not willing to do that, then get the hell out of office. That's the simple truth, people. All right. I want you folks to make sure that you're marking on your calendar this Saturday, the May 18th rally that we have for this hosted by the Sons of Liberty. This is the West Plains Civic Center, and it runs from 9:30 in the morning until mid-afternoon. I'll be there speaking a number of times, and retired Command Sergeant Major Dan Page, U.S. Army retired Special Forces, and in current law enforcement role, he'll be speaking there as well. Listen, folks, this is not a location for the faint of heart to appear. This is going to be a hardcore, straight in your face description of exactly what's happening. We're going to talk about exactly where our government is headed. This is not intended to be something that, you should take lightly. And we're going to be talking especially in reference to this newest story about Posse Comitatus and how it is absolutely closed down in the United States. If you're not aware of it, and I'm going to talk about this tomorrow morning as well, the defense support of civilian law enforcement agencies is a code that in the U.S. Code that has quietly been granted, the military has quietly granted itself the ability to police the streets without obtaining prior local or state consent. Let me tell you something, folks. That is called a military junta. And I'm telling you, we are danger close. I don't know what you're waiting for to wake up and smell the coffee, but if you want armed men of military caliber in your streets, kicking in your doors, and not all U.S., make no mistake about it, the minute there is civil unrest in the United States, they will rush in hordes, and I mean hordes, of foreigners, foreign service people, UN, NATO troops. They've been training them for decades in the United States for exactly this mission. And I'm telling you, we are on the cusp of this nation falling to a foreign power. You know who that foreign power is? The elitists and the money and the United Nations. I'm telling you, folks, it is danger close. Grab your helmet, cover your head, because the bombs are coming in fast and furiously. That is the simple truth. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, Mike, you say as citizens we didn't take an oath, and, the sheriffs did not, but I
didn't say that at all. Don't say I said that. They have taken an oath, and it's our job and our obligation to say to them, we've watched you take the oath, we've seen you take it, now we're going to hold you to it.
No, the other day you were saying that us citizens didn't take an oath.
I don't know where you're getting at. I've never said that. We as citizens have taken an oath by virtue of the fact, first of all, if you've ever pledged allegiance to the flag, you've taken an oath. That's it, right there. If you have ever said the Pledge of Allegiance, you are oath bound.
That's right. Absolutely. That's what I called about.
All right. I misunderstood what you were saying. If you have ever taken the Pledge of Allegiance, and as a child, as an adult, you are pledge bound and oath bound to do your duty to defend this Constitution and defend this nation and defend this republic against all enemies, foreign and I put the most emphasis on right now, domestic. Because we are about to fall to an insider betrayal and an inside plot to destroy this nation from the inside. Our republic is in grave danger. And I mean immediate, imminent, exigent danger. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it.
Okay, Mike.
People, we're out of time. And we're out of time on this show, but we're also out of time as a nation. The time for sitting around saying somebody's going to do something is over. Don't you get it? Don't you smell it? Don't you see it? I don't know how you can't. We don't have the time to sit around and have committee hearings and judicial committees investigations. We don't have the time to even impeach this guy. I'm telling you right now, we are on the verge of collapse. We are on the verge of collapse in a number of areas, not the least of which is our financial system is about to burst. The bubble is go look at the stock market and tell me that's not ballooning up ready for a fall. We've already lost all of the rights of the 10 outlined and delineated Bill of Rights. We've already lost all of those. We know the First Amendment is completely gone. The Second Amendment they're working to destroy. And they're working to destroy it so once they get that out of the way, they can completely obliterate the other 9, and you will be a slave. America, wake up. You're listening to America's Voice. My name is Michael Evans. I'm your host here each and every day from 8 a.m. till 9 a.m. This show repeats from 8 to 9 p.m. It runs Saturday morning from 6 a.m. till 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can catch our show on americasvoicenow.com or .org. You simply click on the button that says Watch the Show Live Here. Helen Keller couldn't miss the button. Don't know what you and your friends who are outside of our listening area are waiting for? That's where you should be driving your friends to. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. America, wake up and get ticked off.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is KBMB Birch Tree is the Ozarks best news talk 24